Hey, this is Justin. It is Wednesday morning, walking through Central Park right now, and started messing out with Claude. I don't know if it's Claude AI. I've heard it pronounced as Claude as well. AI projects yesterday, and super excited about the possibilities that go along with that. So I do things like this live stream, in the mornings, and I do a bunch of audio messages. So I've got a ton of audio messages that go into transcripts and then I have a choice. I can listen back to the specific audio messages, or I can look at the transcripts. But I basically really want to get to how to separate the signal from the noise. So this allows me to kind of take every one of those messages, give some custom instructions, also give some reference data to like what, for what stuff looks like that we want to be able to create. So these messages can get properly identified. And because what happens is like, I was just like, how do I, just a couple of minutes ago, I was like, started on an audio message about how do I create, how do I do like healing of like past traumas, right? And what I'm saying, or just like help to heal past trauma so we don't get like, and these are like not major traumas, but minor traumas, so you don't just get like triggered responses back. And then I went immediately into a workflow conversation, like right in the middle of those. And that's the way that our brain works, like starts down one path and then goes down a different path. And so we can actually train ourselves to be like more focused, or we can go the way that the brain naturally goes. And the brain's probably, let's call it more intelligent than the part of us that wants to fit things into a nice little box and go the way that the brain goes, and then allow the systems on the back end to start to parse out that data. And that's what Claude allows for. And there's three differences that I've seen from like I've been playing with like custom GPTs as well. What this allows for is a more trained memory of what's going on. And what I mean by that is, again, you have custom instructions, which are very similar to what happens with a GPT. Then you also have reference data that you can use to train the instructions based on. And then you have the content that you're actually working with on the back end. And so, and then you can, format the output that goes into that, and then also create feedback loops for kind of retraining the data as we're working. I've been messing around with the concept of ideas to reality at the speed of thought for like 15 years now. So, and working more at like the speed of voice. I can walk through Central Park for a couple of hours today, record a whole bunch of different messages. I'll forget 95% of the stuff that I even talk about within a couple of hours, but that's why it's so beautiful to have the transcripts that can be like, ooh, there's something there, or hey, this thing that you think is important that you're so focused on isn't necessarily that important. And yeah, the thing that you're focused on isn't as important as we originally thought that it was. So this is where we can, use these transcripts and start to mine the transcripts. And there are tools like Otter.ai does a great job of starting to extract everything from like doing summarizations, everything from the transcript. But it doesn't necessarily, it thinks the way that it thinks. It doesn't necessarily um, think the way that supports structuring the output for me on the back end. And it also doesn't have, all of the training data that goes around, with it. So it's amazing to ask some like quick questions, almost like Google like searches for the information that we have, but it doesn't allow for that structured output in the way that it works. It's like, hey, today I'm working on health stuff, so I want the output to be focused on the health stuff. Today I'm working on business stuff, right? And so we can um, have the workflows that kick off that can yeah, the workflows that kick off uh, that can start to put that information into um, into the meaningful place where it needs to go. The other piece that is in creating instructions and in creating that like two-dimensional structure, which is like lists, or creating those two-dimensional structures, then we can start to we also can start to define our own thinking, which is another important aspect of the work, right? We can start to be like, hey, this is what's important to us, and then we can start to identify our own values and really start to surface what happens when we're just kind of speaking unconsciously or speaking more from that tapped in subconscious. So I'm going to leave that one. I think I'm going to leave that one here for right now. Um, Typically like to go 10 minutes for each one of these, each one of these types of posts, and yeah, because the other piece that I will, yeah, I guess the other piece that I'll capture in this one is thinking about like the why behind doing all of this, all of this stuff, and there is. Um, it's for selfish reasons and my personal passion around walking and talking, right, and knowing that personal passions, one, I love the practice of it. It's something that I would do if nobody else participated in, but two, I think because I love it so much, and that might not be the piece, it's something that I want to share with other people, right, and share kind of the specifics, like of here's the stuff that we want that here's the stuff they want to create and build, and then also the other piece is yeah, here's the stuff we want to create and build, and then the other piece of it is here's the um, here's to inspiring people to do work in ways that are that are meaningful, that are meaningful for them, right? And it is every time we do something that is authentic, that's a little bit different than the norm, or what is the perceived norm. It's an invitation for other people to be able to do that. It's also a vote for it's a vote for ourselves in the into thinking a little bit differently, or creating a little bit differently, or solving our problems in a different way. And inside of that, you start to solve small minor problems. Like I was just like, I left um, had a conversation this morning that was a little bit more stressful than I wanted it to be, and then uh, having the guilt that goes along with like my participation in that conversation, and then getting that cleared up on the or getting it cleared up energetically, right? I haven't spoken to the other person yet, but it's we'll do that a little bit later on, but getting it cleared up energetically first, and then second, getting it and then second, also learning how to navigate through some of those different things. Um, the other piece is like when I do these live streams, very self-conscious of like finding the words, or looking for the words that can that make different, and feeling like the experience can be a little bit or a lot rambling for other people on the back end, and continuing to power through. Um, all Violet was taken at all by drug dealer. That's interesting. Um, yeah, very curious what this are. Am I gonna kill the live stream if I take a picture of this thing? Let's just see here. Very curious what it is. I don't know if it killed the live stream or not. Yep, we're back. Okay, so I'm not sure what that did on the direct live stream, but love when people are posting the QR codes, and something it said drug dealer with a QR code and something at all something. So I'm guessing it's a little bit of marking piece for something that may or may not be interesting. So what do I want to say about that? Yes. So literally like to take this video, kind of break it down to its different components, break it down to its content, then break it down to also break it down to the lessons that are coming from it. And then if it is something that scores high, or scores positively based on like whatever criteria we start to put in it, it's like, hey, let's do more of that, right? Let's create more of that. Or but most likely there are some components that are great, and there's some components that are like, nah, this is a little bit more meh and not necessarily so meaningful. So that's the other reason why I want to start working through these, working through the projects, right? Working through the projects, starting to get some of the output, getting more trained on training the data, so that that it gets the feedback, and then also the selfish reasons just wanted to do more input like this, just more walk and talk brainstorms like this as an input on the back end that leads to a more interesting output on the back end. So I'm going to leave that one here right now. Last thing I'm going to say is I'm crucially interested in doing this as like an interview show. Probably going to be doing, I did a walk and talk meetup yesterday, so probably, or just a walk meetup, not necessarily a talk meetup, but a walk meetup. That was an hour walk where people can get some steps, which that was interesting, and seeing more and more people creating walking conversations. Walking conversations with people, and creating the walking conversations that can lead to more opportunities or more ways to be able to connect, which has also inspired me to be doing more walking and more recording this morning before we actually get started, or actually not before we get started, before you go deep into the day. So have an amazing one. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll speak soon.